It's MLE Crew trivia giveaway time, and we were swamped with correct answers. Winners will be receiving either an autographed poster or a Theater of Pain cassette, but this key and drawstring are now the exclusive property of Lisa Fells from Amherstburg, Ontario. Congratulations to you all, and here are Tommy and Vince with the question and answer.
A few weeks ago, we asked you this simple question.
What's the name of MLE Crew's first single, and what record label is it on?
And among other things, that you can win this prized room 1901 key from the beautiful hotel, which I personally stayed in Vancouver, and
the string out of my sweatshirt that I just yanked out of my neck for you, if you answer this question correctly.
Okay, Tommy, what's the right answer?
The answer is Stick to Your Guns, and on the flip side is Toast of the Town.
And the record label?
You know that.
Leather Records.
I'm just really glad that I'm doing this now and that I'm 23 years old. If I was at this stage when I was 28 or 30, I don't think I'd be as into it. I mean, and there are some people like that. I mean, some people who have just started up or just become successful and they are 28 and everything. I think I'm glad I'm getting this part over and done with now.
So you ask, gee, Stu, just how big are Tears for Fears? Well, Songs from the Big Chair is still shipping in the tens of thousands every week, and the momentum should keep building well into mid-'86. Now, after a short break from the marathon tour, they are heading back into the studio to record a new album. This is part 2 of Good Rockin' Tonite with Curt Smith and Roland Orzabal.
I'm into this as a job now. I really am, totally. And I want to make it work. And I find that the more work you put in every area, the more the end result is representative of you. If you kind of miss out on things like, I'll get some video director to make you a fancy video, or get somebody else to mix your record, or I don't really know what to wear in that photograph session, then you end up going, my God, I didn't know I looked like that, and oh, I hate that end result. It's just a matter of control and make sure that what comes across is you and not that you're being mistranslated.
The main thing is to carry on doing something that you enjoy doing. You know, once it ceases to be that, then you should give up. Now I'm still really enjoying myself.
Curt, let me ask you, while you were recording the album Songs from the Big Chair, were there any particular songs on it that you both thought were going to be obvious hits?
There weren't. Actually, I Believe was one, The Working Hour, Mother's Talk. Funnily enough, the two that we had disagreements about was Shout and Everybody Wants to Rule the World. But that, when I say we did with Roland. Because Roland doesn't have an ear for an immediate hit, right? He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that ear. I mean, he has the way of being able to write an immediate hit, but he doesn't have the ear to be able to say that is an immediate hit, which is really funny. I mean, it is a funny way to be when you're sitting there going, this is obviously, you know, it's like, this is a hit record, what are you talking about? And those are the two that he wasn't sure about. Work around an audience because they're the people that come to see you, and it's you. It is entertainment. You are there to fire them, and vice versa. But you have to know how to do it each night because certainly in each country they react in a different way. In England, like in Europe, you can get them excited by just moving a lot. In England, they get more excited when you're like friendly to them, you know, and like chat sort of like very homely to them and things. So it's a different reaction everywhere.
No, I wouldn't consider England. I mean, England's very reserved, and we get a Radio 1, Top of the Pops type audience. You go out there and do as professional show as you can. I just find that in Europe, the pace of the gigs, because there's a lot of mood changes within the gigs, and that the audience actually felt everything we were doing. Here, they're still a bit kind of overwhelmed. So they're trying to let us know all the time that they're enjoying it by making a lot of noise, even in the quiet numbers and everything.
We don't go too far because we don't want to create real hysteria, because that doesn't become as much fun. I'd rather work with an audience and to an audience that you feel kind of a part of, as opposed to trying to set yourself too far above them and to cause a kind of hysteria where you could be in trouble. You know.
We had that problem when we started in England 2 years ago. And since then, through taking a step back in profile at times, we've left the sort of the more teeny bop elements of the audience behind, and we've now got what we consider the right kind of audience, which is slightly older. And it'll be interesting to see if that happens in Canada or if it still keeps up.
I don't understand how people could idolise someone they've never met, or idolise someone full stop anyway, you know. And you cannot react on a one-to-one level with a lot of them, because if you went out and said hello, they can't treat you as anyone normal, which I find extremely strange and hard to cope with at times.
Hi, this is Brian Adams, wishing you all a very happy New Year and the best to you in 1986.
Up next, we talk to Love and Rocket's Daniel Ash on Good Rockin Tonite.
Kevin had the idea of recording Ball of Confusion with that group anyway, but we split up. But as we were driving over, he had a cassette of it, so we were just playing it in the car. And we thought it would be a good starting off point with this particular group, something just to start working together with. And within about 3 or 4 hours after reworking it, I mean, in effect, it took about 4 weeks to rework it so that it sounded relevant for 1985. Myself, David, and Kevin were in about 3 or 4 different groups in Northampton, where we come from. From about, well, this is going back, about 1978. We were in, say, there was a group called The Craze that you just mentioned, and another one which I won't mention the name because it's quite embarrassing. Then in '79, I contacted Peter Murphy, who was a friend of mine at school. We used to go to school together in the same class, and asked him if he fancied, starting a group or whatever. So we both had a rehearsal together, and within about half an hour it started to really work. So then the other two came in automatically. And this is sort of December '79, and then I think that went on until 1983. Bauhaus carried on for about 4 years. So that's the basic story. It was just, playing in pubs and things like that everybody does when they first start out. And then we started Love and Rockets last Christmas, although there were little things in between, Tones on Tail, David's solo things, and him working with the Jazz Butcher. But last Christmas we started this particular group.
And that's Love and Rockets in a nutshell. Now, for those not familiar with them, they are in fact Bauhaus, minus Peter Murphy. For those not familiar with Bauhaus, they were the UK's first Gothic band, complete with black clothing and eyeliner, your painted rib cages, and a sound that was inspired by old horror films. Now, after the departure of vocalist Peter Murphy and a few individual projects, the remaining members of Bauhaus, David J., Daniel Ash, and Kevin Haskins, reunited to form Love and Rockets, and they're riding high with their version of the Temptations' classic Ball of Confusion. Good Rockin' talk with Daniel about their influences.
Well, I remember about 2 years ago when we were recording the last Bauhaus album, a major sort of influence there, particularly with myself, David, and Kevin, we were listening to Sgt. Pepper's a lot, that particular album. And also The Doors, where they're not sort of direct influences, but they definitely came through within more, rather than a musical as in sound influence, it was more of an attitude that was coming through during that time. It was more sort of three-dimensional, sort of trying to be a bit more adventurous with sounds rather than straight songs, verse, chorus. I mean, that is something that we're very interested in at the moment. And also a lot with melody, probably a lot more now with Love and Rockets than with Bauhaus. The idea of bringing melody forward, which I think the Beatles did very well, probably the best, in that particular time if you're talking about the 60s. But, I mean, there are a handful of other groups that I think were probably major influences because they were sort of known commercially, if you like, at that time. I mean, my older brother was sort of brought up in that time. I remember he had sort of the Who albums, the Kinks, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Truggs, things like that. He didn't get so much into things like the Doors and things, which is something we also listen to. And that has definitely followed through in what we're doing now. But there's also a crossover between that, what happened in the early 70s with things like early Roxy Music and David Bowie and T-Rex and that whole glam rock thing, which has been an influence on us for sure. following through to what happened in sort of 76, 77, with things like the Sex Pistols and the Clash and the Damned, which was a big sort of movement in England, you know, the whole punk rock thing. And that's really, I mean, because of that sort of movement in particular, that's why we actually had the guts to actually try and do it ourselves, because that sort of showed us that anybody could do it, which was the whole idea of punk anyway. And that's sort of why groups like Bauhaus and Love and Rockets exist, really, because of that inspiration from seeing people like the Sex Pistols on Top of the Pops, which was a good thing. It sort of broke all the barriers down.
Ball of confusion, that's what the world is today. Hey, hey!
With Love and Rockets, it's been the best sort of setup so far, as far as the chemistry within the group is concerned. You never get an absolutely perfect situation, obviously, because you have to work with other people and everybody have got their different sort of ways of going about things, but it is the best group that we've been in. I mean, this particular tour is 27 dates, which the idea of doing 27 gigs with Bauhaus would be, you know, we couldn't comprehend the idea of that. But we're getting on a lot better now than we were a few years ago anyway. So it's very bearable. In fact, most of the time it's a lot of fun. So in answer to your question, this is probably the group that's going to hopefully really break through. Yes, we hope. But you can never really tell.
Paul, Morten, and Megs, welcome to North America.
Thank you. Thanks.
Been here, you were at the Grammys. That was your first performance live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're working on a world tour.
True.
Okay, tell me about it. What's in the early stages? Do you know anything in the early stages?
Well, we're starting rehearsals and obviously auditioning extra musicians next month, and then the tour will start 1st of June, isn't it?
Yeah, Australia.
How many musicians you plan to take with you?
Probably 2 more.
Or 3. We don't
2 or
know
3,
yet.
yeah. 5 or 6-piece band altogether.
Okay, where are you living now? What's home now for you?
London is...
Yeah, we just bought some flats in London.
Bought 8 or 10 flats.
Yeah. I got about 4. A couple of blocks, you know.
All right, we haven't had anywhere to live really for 3 years now. That this is sort of our first homes. We actually got a flat each.
Anywhere to live?
We've been rushing around everywhere.
Now the London attraction goes back to the group's history. Morten, can you run down the how AHA came together? You were one of the last members, I understand, to join. Is that true?
One of the last members to join. I was, yeah.
Well,
I joined them in probably in summer '82, and we spent the next 6 months in Norway just to get the act together, and then we left for England.
Now the songwriting combination is you two, Paul and Megs.
Yeah, I mean we've spent most of our time in England anyway. The only reason people now think we've moved, made a conscious move, is because we've actually got places to live there. We're not renting.
Well, most of his time, he means the last 3 years.
Now you two, Paul and Megs, you've been writing in the early stages of your lives, around what, 10 years old?
That's the most creative
That's
period.
when they were writing, yeah.
Yeah, take on me, like I was 11 years old. No. Yeah, we've always sort of competed, writing the best song or playing the fastest guitar all through our childhood.
That's why I'm in the middle.
Yeah, try to keep us apart.
The debut album, Hunting High and Low, is wow. I mean, we're talking success now. We're talking. If I was to, or anybody was coming up to you and say, you guys are overnight successes, what is your reaction to that?
Yeah,
it's true.
15 years, took us 15 years to get overnight success.
No, but in the sense that from the day we released it and until now, it's only been about 9 months. So in that sense, we are. But there's a lot of work behind that, like you said, years.
World tour, you're going to be deluged with a lot of interviews. How are you going to react?
No, not us. We're not going to do that. We're just doing the tour and maybe a few television things in between. Yeah.
You have to, we don't want to get completely washed out, so we'll try to concentrate most on the shows, and then,
we're doing very few press interviews in magazines at all.
I think you have to, or you go crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
it's hard because you don't expect. It's not a natural part of being a musician. It is, but it drains you in a different way than working with music. So unless you have a breathers, you know. If you keep on doing it all the time, it kind of drains you, you know. The worst thing is that you have to have a definite view about everything, you know. It's like you want to say, hold on a minute, do I really have to mean something about that? It's like...
Well, on the world tour, and we know you're coming up to Canada, we're really looking forward to seeing Aha again. It'll be, not again, but
You
for
better
the first
be
time.
there, yeah.
Good. Thanks.